U.S. President Donald Trump has filed a $10 billion lawsuit against the BBC. He's accusing the British public broadcaster of defamation and unfair trade practices. His lawsuit stems from a documentary that edited together separate parts of his January 6, 2021 speech just before the Capitol Hill riot in Washington.
President Trump is celebrating a court's decision to move forward with a defamation case he has against the Pulitzer Prize Board. The case centers around the New York Times and Washington Post award-winning coverage of what was dubbed Russiagate during Trump's first term, about Trump's 2016 campaign and allegations of Russia collusion.
Donald Trump's petty billion-dollar lawsuits are exploding in his face right now, and what's happening with the Pulitzer Prize Board is absolutely humiliating for him. Trump thought he could bully and intimidate one of the most prestigious journalism organizations in America. He thought he could file a frivolous defamation lawsuit, throw around some ridiculous billion-dollar damages claim, and either get a quick settlement or at least get some good PR out of it. But the Pulitzer Prize Board just said, no, we're not backing down, we're not settling. And if you want to play this game, we're going to make you regret it. And now Trump is being forced to hand over his financial records, his tax returns, his medical records, and documents from every other defamation lawsuit he's filed recently. This is backfiring spectacularly, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening and why Trump is probably panicking right now. But real quick, before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built John Brown Show, to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe to our channel, because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into this disaster. So here's what happened. Donald Trump sued the Pulitzer Prize Board for billions of dollars. Yes, billions. And what was his reasoning? Trump claims he was emotionally distressed and financially damaged because the Pulitzer Prize Board awarded Pulitzer Prizes to writers from the New York Times and the Washington Post who wrote about Trump's connections with Russia. Let that sink in for a moment. Trump is suing the Pulitzer Prize Board not because they wrote anything about him, but because they gave awards to journalists who wrote about him. Trump is literally suing an organization for recognizing good journalism. That's how petty and pathetic this lawsuit is. Now, here's how this all started. Several years ago, Trump lodged a complaint with the Pulitzer Prize Board. Who does that? Who complains to the Pulitzer Prize Board about journalism awards? But Trump did. He demanded that they investigate the reporting by the New York Times and Washington Post and take away the Pulitzer Prizes. And you know what the Pulitzer Prize Board did? They reviewed Trump's complaint, they looked at the journalism, they examined the reporting, and they said, "We've reviewed your complaint, Mr. Trump, and we confirm that there was nothing inaccurate in the reporting by the New York Times and the Washington Post. Therefore, we're not taking away their Pulitzer Prizes." Case closed, right? The journalism was accurate, the awards were deserved, end of story. But not for Donald Trump, because Trump is a petty, feeble, litigious, weak individual who cannot let anything go. So Trump comes up with this absurd legal theory. He says, aha, by you saying that these reports deserve the Pulitzer Prize in response to my complaint, you've now adopted those articles as though they were your own. And I'm declaring that those articles were defamatory. So secondarily, you're defaming me by giving them awards when they defame me. So I'm coming after you. Think about how ridiculous that argument is. Trump is saying that by giving an award to journalism, the Pulitzer Prize Board is somehow responsible for the content of that journalism. That's like saying, if you give an award to a movie, you're now responsible for everything that happens in that movie. It's nonsense. It has no legal merit whatsoever. But Trump filed the lawsuit anyway because that's what Trump does. He files frivolous lawsuits to bully people, to intimidate them, to try to force settlements, and to generate headlines that make him look like a victim. But here's where things get really interesting. The Pulitzer Prize Board looked at this lawsuit and said, okay, Trump, you want to play this game? Let's play. And they did something absolutely brilliant. Instead of just filing a motion to dismiss like most defendants would do, instead of just arguing that the lawsuit is frivolous and should be thrown out, the Pulitzer Prize Board went on the offensive. They issued about 30+ requests for production of documents. They said, okay, Trump, here's what we want. Give us your financial records. Give us your tax returns. Give us your medical records, because Trump is claiming emotional distress and financial damages, right? Well, if you're claiming emotional distress, you need to prove it. That means turning over your medical records. If you're claiming financial damages, you need to prove those too. That means turning over your financial records and tax returns. And then the Pulitzer Prize Board did something even more brilliant. They went lawsuit by lawsuit through all of Trump's other recent defamation cases and said, we want documents from all of these cases too. Because here's the thing, Trump is constantly claiming that people are defaming him. Trump sued CBS over editing a Kamala Harris interview, claiming it cost him the election. Trump sued the Wall Street Journal over publishing a letter he sent to Jeffrey Epstein for Epstein's 50th birthday. Trump sued ABC and George Stephanopoulos over using a specific word to describe what Trump was found civilly liable for.
I'm suing the BBC for putting words in my mouth, literally. They put words in my mouth. They had me saying things that I never said coming out. I guess they used AI or something, and they got caught because I believe somebody at BBC said, this is so bad, it has to be reported. They actually put terrible words in my mouth having to do with January 6th that I didn't say. And the beautiful words that I said, right? The beautiful words, talking about patriotism and all of the good things that I said, they didn't say that, but they put terrible words. They actually have me speaking with words that I never said, and they got caught because I believe somebody at BBC said, this is so bad, it has to be reported. That's called fake news.
Trump is filing defamation lawsuits on what feels like a monthly basis. And the Pulitzer Prize Board is saying, if you're claiming that we defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation, And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. And you're also claiming that all these other media organizations defamed you and hurt your reputation. Then we need to look at defamation as one big pie. In other words, if Trump is going to stand in front of a jury and say, the Pulitzer Prize Board emotionally distressed me and damaged my reputation, the Pulitzer Prize Board gets to ask, okay, but what about CBS? What about ABC? What about the Wall Street Journal? You're claiming all of these people damaged your reputation. So what percentage of your alleged emotional distress and reputational damage do you attribute to each defendant? This is devastating for Trump, because now Trump has to explain how much emotional distress he suffered from each allegedly defamatory statement. He has to quantify it. He has to provide evidence. And that means the Pulitzer Prize Board gets to conduct discovery into all of Trump's other frivolous defamation lawsuits. They get to see the documents from those cases. They get to take depositions. They get to examine Trump's claims in all of these cases. And let's be really clear about something. It is not normal for any human being to file this many defamation cases in their life. Even high-profile people who might genuinely be defamed occasionally don't file defamation lawsuits every single month. But Trump does. Trump files defamation cases for billions of dollars against media organizations on what feels like a monthly basis. And that is not normal behavior. That is the behavior of someone who is using the legal system as a weapon. That is the behavior of someone who is trying to bully and intimidate critics into silence. That is the behavior of someone who cannot handle any criticism whatsoever. And now, because of this Pulitzer Prize lawsuit, all of that behavior is going to be exposed in discovery. The Pulitzer Prize Board is going to get to examine all of Trump's frivolous lawsuits. They're going to get to show a pattern of Trump filing bogus defamation claims. They're going to get to demonstrate that Trump uses lawsuits as political weapons. Now, let's talk about some of these other lawsuits for a moment because they're absurd. Take the ABC case with George Stephanopoulos. Trump sued ABC because Stephanopoulos used a specific word to describe what Trump was found civilly liable for. Stephanopoulos said Trump was found liable for a certain act. Trump claims that's defamation because technically the jury found him liable for sexual assault using his finger, not the exact act that Stephanopoulos named. So Trump is claiming he was defamed because the wrong word was used to describe his sexual assault. Think about how pathetic that is. Trump is saying, I was found civilly liable for sexually assaulting a woman using my finger, but you used the wrong word to describe it, so I'm suing you for defamation. That is Trump's legal argument, and ABC settled that case. ABC paid Trump money rather than fighting it in court, and that was a massive mistake. Because if ABC hadn't cowardly settled with Donald Trump, can you imagine what that discovery would have looked like? Can you imagine what that deposition would have been like? The questions would have been devastating for Trump. Admit or deny, you were found liable in a civil case for using your finger to sexually assault a woman. Admit or deny, you're claiming you were defamed because a different word was used to describe that assault. Admit or deny, you were found civilly liable for a horrific act of sexual violence. Trump would have had to answer those questions under oath. Trump would have had to sit there and defend his position that being called one thing versus another thing is defamation, even though he was found liable for sexual assault either way. But ABC settled instead. ABC gave Trump money. ABC backed down. And that emboldened Trump to keep filing more frivolous lawsuits. But the Pulitzer Prize Board is not backing down. The Pulitzer Prize Board is saying, we're not ABC, we're not Disney, we're not some corporation that's worried about our stock price or our business interests. We're the freaking Pulitzer Prize Board, and we're not giving you money. And now the Pulitzer Prize Board is adopting the role of examining all of Trump's defamation claims. They're saying, if you're claiming that we hurt your reputation, and you're also claiming that CBS hurt your reputation, and ABC hurt your reputation, and the Wall Street Journal hurt your reputation, then let's look at all of it together. Let's see what percentage of your alleged damages comes from each defendant. Let's see if you even have a reputation left to damage, given that you're constantly claiming everyone is defaming you. This is brilliant legal strategy, and it's exactly what defendants should be doing when Trump files these frivolous lawsuits. Don't just file a motion to dismiss and wait 18 months for the court to rule. Go on the offensive, demand discovery, request documents, schedule depositions, make Trump regret filing the lawsuit in the first place. Because here's what happens when you do that. Trump folds. Trump dismisses the lawsuit. Trump runs away. We've seen this before. Michael Cohen did this when Trump sued him. Cohen immediately demanded documents and scheduled Trump's deposition. And Trump did everything he could to avoid that deposition. Trump asked for extensions. Trump tried to delay. Trump tried to get out of it. And finally, after 5 attempts to avoid the deposition, the judge said, enough is enough. You either dismiss this case or show up for your deposition. And you know what Trump did? He dismissed the case. Trump ran away. Trump couldn't handle having to sit for a deposition and answer questions under oath. And that's what the Pulitzer Prize Board is doing now. They're forcing Trump to either follow through with this lawsuit and face discovery, or dismiss the case and admit it was frivolous all along. And based on Trump's history, he's probably going to dismiss the case because Trump does not want to turn over his financial records. Trump does not want to turn over his tax returns. Trump does not want to turn over his medical records. And Trump definitely does not want to sit for a deposition where he has to answer questions under oath about all of his frivolous defamation lawsuits. Now, let's talk about why Trump keeps filing these lawsuits in the first place. Because none of these lawsuits have any legal merit. None of them are going to win in court. None of them are based on legitimate legal claims. Trump files these lawsuits for PR reasons and for leverage. Trump files a lawsuit, he gets a headline that says, Trump sues for billions. That headline makes it look like Trump was wronged. It makes it look like the media did something terrible to him. It generates sympathy from his base. It reinforces his narrative that he's a victim of the fake news media. That's the PR benefit. And then there's the leverage. Trump hopes that by filing these lawsuits, he can intimidate defendants into settling. He can threaten them with expensive litigation. He can use his position as president to make other trouble for them if they don't settle. He can threaten to hold up mergers. He can threaten to launch investigations. He can threaten to use the power of the federal government against them. And unfortunately, that strategy has worked in some cases. ABC settled. CBS has faced pressure. Other media organizations have backed down. Law firms have refused to take cases against Trump. Universities have cowered. Large segments of civil society have been intimidated into submission, not because Trump's lawsuits have legal merit, but because Trump is willing to use his power corruptly and unconstitutionally to punish anyone who doesn't bend to his will. But the Pulitzer Prize Board is not intimidated. The Pulitzer Prize Board is standing up to Trump, and that's what every defendant should do when Trump files one of these frivolous lawsuits. Because all of Trump's lawsuits that he's filed against media organizations have been legally bankrupt. They're bogus. They have no merit. No jury is ever going to hold for Trump on these claims. The only reason Trump has extracted any settlements is because he's been able to intimidate defendants with the threat of using presidential power against them. But when defendants stand firm, when they demand discovery, when they force Trump to actually prove his claims, Trump folds. Every single time. Now, Trump also just filed another lawsuit this week against the BBC. Trump is claiming that the BBC defamed him by editing footage from his January 6th speech. Trump says the BBC stitched together two portions of his speech and made it sound like one continuous sentence when actually those parts were said at different times during the speech. So Trump is suing based on the sequence of his own words. He's saying, I said this part first, and then at the end, I said this part, but they edited it to make it look like I was saying it all at once, so that's defamation. That's Trump's legal theory. It's absurd. We all know what happened on January 6th. We all saw Trump's speech. We all saw what he said and what he did. We all saw the insurrection that followed. The idea that the BBC editing the sequence of Trump's own words somehow changes the meaning or defames him is ridiculous. But Trump filed the lawsuit anyway. And the BBC needs to follow what the Pulitzer Prize Board is doing. The BBC needs to stand on business. The BBC needs to demand discovery. The BBC needs to schedule Trump's deposition. The BBC needs to make Trump prove his claims, because if they do that, Trump will dismiss the case, just like he did with Michael Cohen, just like he's probably going to do with the Pulitzer Prize Board once he realizes he actually has to turn over documents and sit for a deposition. Trump's tried and true strategy is to file the lawsuit, get the headline, hope for a quick settlement, and then if that doesn't work, just close up his tent and declare victory or pretend the lawsuit never happened. That's what Trump does. That's what he's always done. And the only way to stop it is to call his bluff, demand discovery, force him to prove his claims, make him regret filing the lawsuit. And when you do that, Trump runs away. Now, here's what makes this Pulitzer Prize situation even more embarrassing for Trump. Trump is the president of the United States. He's supposedly the most powerful person in the world. He's supposedly running the country, dealing with foreign policy, managing the economy, handling national security. But instead, Trump is spending his time filing petty defamation lawsuits against journalism organizations because they gave awards to reporters who wrote accurately about him. Think about how pathetic that is. Think about how weak that makes Trump look. The President of the United States is suing the Pulitzer Prize Board because he's butthurt about journalism awards. That's not presidential behavior. That's not the behavior of someone who is confident and secure. That's the behavior of someone who is petty, vindictive, and cannot handle any criticism whatsoever. And now that lawsuit is backfiring in Trump's face. Now Trump is being forced to turn over documents. Now Trump is facing discovery into all of his other frivolous lawsuits. Now Trump is being exposed as someone who weaponizes the legal system for political purposes. Make sure you're subscribed to National Brief Network because we're going to keep tracking this story. We're going to keep watching as Trump's lawsuits continue to backfire. We're going to keep exposing the truth about Trump's abuse of the legal system because this matters. This is about whether rich and powerful people can bully others into silence through frivolous litigation. This is about whether the legal system can be weaponized for political purposes. This is about whether defendants will stand up to Trump or continue to cower in fear. And right now, the Pulitzer Prize Board is showing everyone how it's done. They're standing firm. They're demanding discovery. They're calling Trump's bluff. And Trump is probably panicking right now because he knows this lawsuit is about to blow up in his face. Share this video with everyone you know, because people need to understand what Trump is doing with these frivolous lawsuits. People need to see how these lawsuits backfire when defendants actually fight back, And people need to know that Trump is not the tough guy he pretends to be. When you call his bluff, he folds every single time. This story is far from over. Stay tuned.